Welcome to Advisor Confidential, the podcast series that dives deep into the evolving world of registered investment advisors. Whether you're an established RIA, exploring the independent advisory space, or just curious about the future of fiduciary finance, this is your go-to source. We'll bring you expert insights, candid conversations, and real-world stories from the front lines of wealth management.
What is actual investing? We believe that it's our real-world task to deliver thoughtful capital deployment. It's not about speculating over the short term, it's about understanding the long-term opportunities for companies through technological progress or new business models. So we seek out those exploring big, new ideas that will change the world. Then we back them to give those ideas time to flourish. Baillie Gifford, Actual Investors. Find out more at baileygifford.com.
Welcome to Advisor Confidential, the podcast series. I'm Tracy Longo, Washington editor at Financial Advisor magazine. Advisor Confidential, in today's episode, Building a Multi-Gen RIA to Last, is brought to you by Baillie Gifford. I want to welcome our esteemed guest, JC Abusaid, CEO and President of Halbert Hargrove. Let's dive right in, JC. As CEO and president of Halbert Hargrove, JC is guiding the firm confidently into the future. Execution and operational excellence are his bywords. He formally took the helm as CEO in December 2021. For many years, working alongside chairman and HH founder Russ Hill, JC has had the privilege to be involved in most facets of the firm and has enjoyed being part of HH's growth and success. He joined HH as operations manager in 1996 and was named president and chief operating officer in 2010. JC enjoys the dynamic nature of his role. "I like solving big challenges," he said in a recent interview. JC earned his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration at Bogota, Columbia University, and his MBA from the University of Redlands School of Business. He was awarded the Accredited Investment Fiduciary designation by the University of Pittsburgh affiliated Center for Fiduciary Studies. In 2016, JC was part of Stanford University's pioneer cohort in earning an LEAD certificate in corporate innovation from Stanford Graduate School of Business. LEAD stands for Learn, Engage, Accelerate, and Disrupt. In 2021, he was again part of an inaugural class, this time taking part in BlackRock's first Emerging Leader Lab. Thank you for letting us pick your brain today, JC. For our first question, to give everyone a sense of HH's scale, can you share a quick history of the firm, your assets under management, and how many advisors and clients you serve? Folks love these metrics. We're all nosy.
Of course, absolutely, and thank you for having me. So the firm goes back to 1933 as a broker-dealer, but in 1989 is when Russ founded the RIA, which is the firm we're focusing on today. I joined the firm in 96. When I joined the firm, we had about 200 million under management, 150 clients, 7 employees. So today we're 50 employees, about 1,000 clients, and we are around 4 billion.
Wow, that's incredible. What do you think the catalyst was that pushed HH to become a multi-generational firm well before most of your peers in the industry?
Yes, for good or for bad, I would say what triggered some of the changes and some of the decisions we made was that around 2004, we were approached and the firm, they were trying to acquire the firm. So this is one of the first aggregators that came to us. And at the time, obviously, Russ was the majority owner, and he, for whatever reason, he decided that he never really meant to sell the business. He never entered the business to make or to have a liquidity event. It probably never occurred to him. So after consulting with some of the key people back then in the firm, he decided that no, we were not for sale. But obviously, there's a trade-off. You're you're offered a big sum of money and you turn it down, well, you better make sure you have no regrets. And his words were like, we better do it right. I don't want to, I want to make sure we do this correctly. So that's what triggered the idea of becoming a sustainable business. And we focused on succession, and then we started really thinking strategically instead of being more tactical and what have you. So that's really what triggered what started to take place in the years to come.
Oh, okay. So that really is a motivator, the decision to become going concern rather than take that large sum of money, as many of your peers have done and continue to do. So that really sets you apart, and that's so important for our audience to hear how you made all of this work, how all the pieces fit. So many RIAs today, as they grow, they let branches and advisor teams build their own cultures. You folks at HH took a very different route. Why did you make that decision to become more of a centralized operation? How does that work?
That's a great question, Tracy. So as I think about it, it's not because we were smart and knew exactly that this is the way it needed to be built. It was more because we saw it. We had trial and error. The firm came together as a bunch of really good people that wanted to do the right thing, but we did start that way. We did have small satellite offices, and they all had kind of their own way of doing things. So it was very painful, and obviously it became very apparent after we made the decision to not sell the firm, but to grow it and be sustainable. We actually even found that some of the advisors we had they were just in a different track. So actually, we did not only did we push out a couple of advisors, and we told them we helped them leave the firm and go somewhere else. But that's when we realized, look, we need to build scale. We can't treat this as a family business or a familiar type business. It needs to be on purpose. And I think that's when we found that culture was very important, and we started driving the firm to be more centralized, meaning we needed to make the decisions at the home office, and we needed to kind of do the heavy lifting at the home office, and free up the folks in the satellite offices or the regional offices, that's what we call them today, to really focus on client service and helping us grow.
Thank you for that insight. Certainly, I'm sure it was heavy lifting in the beginning, as you alluded to, and it's always painful for a firm like HH or others to lose producers and big producers, probably in some circumstances. What were the selling points you brought to the table to convince those that wanted to remain with HH that, this was going to be beneficial to them? What products and services did you centralize and do you now deliver? And how has that kind of evolved over time?
Sure. So there was a trade-off. Right, our focus was succession. And succession for us really was the idea that the firm had been growing because of our, I call it the G1 advisors, were the ones servicing the business. And back in the day, they did everything, right? There was no admin, like everything from trading or giving our trading group instructions to portfolio management to you name it. They were a one-man band. So we were fortunate enough with the timing to then offer, hey, we will have a junior advisor in headquarters. Back in the day, most of those junior advisors were here in Long Beach. They will start doing some of that work for you and help you. So that allowed us to start centralizing if you would, the effort, because they were getting support. So then it was easy for them to give up some of the activities they were doing, as long as somebody in Long Beach was doing it for them. The other thing that we did was, and that was not necessarily a trade-off, but we started eliminating the admin support. Localized, meaning we found that was the biggest detractor from them. I don't want to use the word compliant because we were collaborative and trying to work together. But the idea was, look, if you have somebody local that can do stuff for you, it was like moral hazard. It was like, oh, you have a resource there. Well, I don't want to, I want to do it my way. It's easier. This is what I'm comfortable with. So we quickly identified that one, as we added more offices, just make sure they didn't come with admin attached. And then second, any opportunity we had, because again, we were not cutthroat. We didn't let go of people. We just simply, as people left or what have you, they didn't get replaced or they were asked to come to headquarters.
Okay. And so basically you've overseen a lot of change and disruption. So you've put those designations and certifications and degrees to work in terms of disrupting, you know, in a good way, good disruption in terms of building HH. All of this comes with a financial cost, obviously, as you're adding junior advisors. So how did you sort of dole out or break out that cost in the beginning, and how do you do it now so that senior advisors, you know, buy into this program?
Sure. Look, Tracy, we gave up a lot of money to sell the firm. We were fortunate enough that Russ allowed us to do this, because in reality, what you did is start thinking long term. So there was an expense. Our margins did get affected originally, but we were early enough in the process where we were able to still, again, if you start communicating to the whole firm and to these advisors what the plan is, and you tell them, look, the idea is you're going to grow faster with the support we're providing you. But then, you know, there was comp arrangements were modified to accommodate for that. But again, it's a trade-off. Now, again, you and I know that it's not that easy. People don't always buy. I call it the hand in a cookie jar. I'm not willing to let go of comp on the come that I'm going to grow faster. So we were willing to put up with that a little bit, meaning we were willing to put up with a little dislocation. But again, we were dynamic and we kept adjusting our comp structure to accommodate for the growth, again, on the come, and it did come.
Well, that's incredible. And so how many years have you been doing it that way now with the junior advisor?
Sure. So I would say by the time 2010 or so came around, we already had a cohort of junior advisors. So to lay out kind of the demographics of the firm, we now have 4 generations of advisors. So you have the G1, the original advisors. The G2, by the way, was a fluke. There's only like 3 of us that we are in our late 50s or so. But the big cohort was the junior advisors, is the G3. And they, what ended up happening, and this is what's wonderful, from the lessons we learned with the G1 that they needed support so they could grow, was the years went by, we found that the G1, because of getting older and being more senior people, the growth amount or the growth rate was lower. So we started depending on the G3 advisors. So for the growth, but then we knew better, learning from the prior lesson, and this is what's key for HH, and I think I attribute most of the success we're having today is we were way quicker to understand that, well, they're going to need a succession plan. So before the comp gets out of hand, before the client load gets out of hand, we need to start putting now on junior advisor under them. That's the generation 4 that we have. So by the time we did that one, we transitioned way faster. The comp is right. The training is right. We now have a sales coach. So instead of taking, 10 years of being mentored by this senior person, right from the get-go, the minute you declared that you want to be an advisor at HH, you started getting exposed to how do we tell the Halbert Hargrove story? By the way, we're not a sales organization. For anybody that listens to this, I don't want you to take away that, oh my gosh, HH is just a sales machine and that's how they can do it. It's not really. We just tell our story, and that's what we teach our people is you don't need to sell. You just need to tell people what we do, why we do what we do for clients, know that we add a lot of value, and we just train them to do that very well, do it at the right time under the right scenarios and all of that. So I think that's my answer to that. I don't know if I missed anything. Please ask me, tell me if I did.
Sure. I know in you and I speaking in the past, you've talked about fearless conversations and why they were so important, especially in those early days of transition, but also all along the way, you have sought advisors' feedback, and I'm sure some has been wonderful, and I'm sure maybe in the early days, some was not so wonderful. Could you share an example or two with our audience about how some of those conversations went and how you handled that? Because most of us, as I know you have said to me, don't love to hear criticism, especially when something's so near and dear to your heart. So give us a couple examples of how what you heard and how you handled that.
Sure. I'll start with one that reverberates across the whole firm, which is we've declared with our culture that associates come first. Most firms say, no, clients come first, employees or associates second. We've declared associates come first. You can't just say that and not show that you really mean it. So I would say we have fearless conversations when we have clients that don't behave. And we're very transparent. So in other words, if a client doesn't behave and it's a consistent thing, meaning this is a client, so it's going to be a problem, we have a fearless conversation with that client. And we tell them, look, if you can't behave, this is how we expect you to behave, or these are the standards that we have. You cannot mistreat our associates, blah, blah, blah. We make an example of it. We have terminated many clients over that. And then we have our Monday meetings and we talk about it. Now and that happens every so often. We're not in the business of firing clients. I think anybody listening to this knows, I don't know, 1 in 100 maybe ends up being a client that turns out bad, and it's not the most pleasant people to deal with. So that's one of them. The other one, which I would say was the one that solidified the culture. This is, I don't know, we had a rough patch when I mentioned that our G1 advisors were becoming more senior and the growth rate was slowing down. We happened to have a very successful advisor back in the day, and there came a point where he was responsible for 80% of the growth of the firm. He was the person that was growing us. We were retooling and figuring out how to get the junior advisors up to speed. But this person was not a good fit for the firm, was not aligned with the culture, and we had a lot of issues. But as you can imagine, we're depending on this person because they're pretty much the growth engine at the moment. And we had a fearless conversation, and he didn't quite believe that we meant it, but we had to let him go. And that was shock to the firm and to everybody. But again, you have to be willing to make those big fearless decisions, and otherwise it doesn't mean anything. And again, I think that from there on, we have fearless conversations constantly. Even if we hire you and we go, look, you're not doing well in this position. Doesn't mean we let you go. We give you opportunity to try something else, but we're not afraid to do that. And everybody knows that's the expectation and we use it, right? It's our lingo. Hey, it's time for a fearless conversation about this or that or what have you. So.
Well, that's an eye opener, and I know that's one of the most painful things that firms have to do. Besides firing the client that kind of doesn't fit, it's firing a big producer who just not fitting in with the new culture that you were creating. So thank you for being so honest and sharing that with us. Tell us what your growth looks like. I know what your expectation is, in 2025, or what your plan is. What has it been like during, the early transition years, and then, throughout, because this has been really kind of almost a 2-decade a process to get HH where you are today. Well, what would annual growth look like during the early years, and then, on to now?
Yes, I would say again, because we didn't have a strategy, there was a lot of, look, anything that comes at us, we'll try it. We were very innovative. We remain very innovative, but we're more strategic. So I think in the beginning, we had our original group of the G1 advisors, about eight advisors. It was like anything that was new business, we took it. So we were not strategic, meaning obviously our core was high net worth individuals and families, but we would take institutional business, foundations, retirement plans, and so on. Little by little, we realized our market, or really what we focused on, what we really enjoyed, was working one-on-one with individuals and families. We found that foundations, retirement plans, they're more delicate. The relationship is not individualized. So we focused away from that. So that's one of the changes we made. When you start becoming strategic, you start focusing on, well, what are the services you deliver for those people, and so on. So all of that background just to say that by focusing, we became strategic on what is the type of client we want. We set minimums. We did all that groundwork, and then, like I said, we were slow, and call it the mid 2010 to 2000, maybe 18. It's a time we were retooling. It was hard for us. We were dependent on different referral networks and people. So we changed all of that. Again, you have to be strategic. We decided, look, we're not going to depend on any one person. We never want to see that happen to Halbert Hargrove again. And then we don't want to depend on any one source of business. Ideally, we would want to generate all the business ourselves through our own marketing efforts. We're not quite there, but what we have done is the growth rate for the firm is driven by, we have 13 individuals right now that are the producers of the firm. It's diversified. There's not one person that is dominating, or it's 50% of that growth. Rather, it's a broad contribution of people trying to help us grow. And then in terms of business sources, again, it's just strategic. So we have obviously client referrals, network referrals, COI referrals, and we measure that, and we set goals every year for where they should be. So we're managing that. Now, I think you wanted to know our growth rate. So our growth rate has been, and by the way, we measured sometimes different than the industry. We measure net new clients, Tracy. We decided that was the more important metric, and it's a longer term metric. We're not looking at the AUM captured, because we figured the minimum takes care of that. But if we're bringing the right clients, it'll sort itself. And again, net clients. So we're targeting 8.5% approximately every year. And we have been hitting that. And in fact, today is quarter end. And there's a lot of stress on the firm right now, just to make sure that we know if we did hit our goal or not. But I think we did.
Well, that's good, and good, because you really don't want to have one of those fearless conversations this afternoon. So compensation, obviously can make or break succession planning and just day-to-day operations. What did you learn about trying to balance short-term payouts with long-term sustainability when it comes to your compensation packages?
Yes. So the one key thing that Halbert Hargrove does well, and I attribute this to Russ, coming from a broker-dealer model, is there's always been a focus on minimizing conflicts of interest, Tracy. So that's the one thing you really want to be aware of is your what behaviors your compensation driving. Obviously, all the experts tell me how your comp is, I'll tell you what the behavior is, or something to that effect. But the point is, we're very dynamic with our compensation. We're constantly monitoring it and adjusting it. So again, if I'll give you one example, if we originally incentivized our junior advisors to support the senior people, we needed to be very careful and very aware that, okay, if that junior advisor starts bringing business, what's the compensation for that business? Make sure it's not in conflict with the other one, because then the senior person starts getting jealous, or their clients get ignored because the advisor's not incentivized to get their own business. So again, you have to stay in front of it and constantly adjust and realize, whoa, we created a conflict here. We're given a really big incentive for the junior advisor to bring business, but now what are we going to do with the business that's they're supporting? So again, we were constantly communicating, being as transparent as possible, and just announcing the different changes that we were making in the firm to make sure that everybody was at ease and aware that we were paying attention, not just oblivious to the issues we were causing.
Good. Thank you for sharing that with us. So I know that eliminating conflicts is a big priority for HHNU. How do you make that, beyond compensation, how do you make that work? And what if some of the red flags you have made the decision to get rid of, whether it's, services, products, obviously, you said you made the decision early on that one of the firm's biggest producers was probably not going to be a cultural fit anymore. Give us some insights on how you handle that and adjust on a going forward basis.
Sure. Yeah. So one, we're very focused on truly being a fiduciary, and I know that term's overused, but the reality, Tracy, for Halbert Hargrove, the only compensation, we're definitely a fee-only firm. Whenever we hire a service provider, anybody to help, we're very careful vetting them. We're just making sure we're not going to inadvertently trigger some behavior. So I think it's culturally, for example, we remain fiercely independent. We've decided that we won't offer accounting services for our clients, that we won't hire CPAs to do tax returns. We want to, again, use best of breed, use the best professionals we can work with. Same thing with estate planning. Other firms have decided to bring that in-house. We view that as a conflict. We want to, we feel that an accountant or an estate planning attorney is best when that's what they do for a living. They run a firm. If they're really good at it, they have a very successful firm. So that's one area that we've been very careful not to trip on. The other side of it, Tracy, we do it with associates. So one of the things we do that maybe illustrates a little bit of the focus on the firm is, and I'm going to throw two examples at you. One is, after somebody's been with us 90 days, we will actually offer them to leave the firm. I know it sounds counterproductive. You already spent 90 days, but we feel that that's the moment when you really want to give somebody the option to leave, meaning if for whatever reason they missed it, we missed it, it's not a match, it's not going well, but we're oblivious that it's not going well. That is a time for that person to leave. And then we offer them a severance package. It's X percentage of the comp, meaning the idea is they'll have at least 90 days to go find another job. So that's one of the ways. I'll give you another one is some people say, well, it's still a catch. I don't think so. But a lot of firms like ours pay for an MBA or a master's. And we have a lot of our folks now that have earned a master's through Halbert Hargrove. So we offer to pay for that. We will not have anybody sign an agreement saying, hey, we paid X dollar, which is now more than six figures, by the way, to get your MBA. Therefore, we want you to stick around for 10 years. We don't believe in that. We believe in never creating barriers, meaning there's no fan stuff out around Halbert Hargrove trying to force people to stick around. So what we do is we offer to reimburse for the loan payment, meaning if they want to leave, sure, they leave and the loan goes with them. People say, well, there's a conflict right there. I didn't say it was perfect. I say we're trying to be thoughtful. And obviously we want the loan to be at least for 7 years or so. But again, you can see how we think about these things. We're constantly just minimizing any rub in any way. If you are in one of our regional offices and we want you to come, we usually have people come to our main headquarters. We used to have it four times a year. It's been lately more than twice a year, but there was a conflict, right? If you're responsible for your own expenses, you might not come to our 4 meetings or to our 2 meetings because it's expensive. We offer to pay for that. Again, minimize. We don't want you to even worry about it. That's on us, and we cover the travel expense.
Well, that sounds like 2 brilliant ways that you make sure the people that stay with your firm are there for the right reasons. So that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Equity ownership is another key, I think, to your talent retention. How do you decide when someone's ready for equity, and how do you keep it, as a motivational term as the firm grows?
Absolutely. Well, similar to one of the first questions in the beginning, we were not brilliant always, so we've had to learn. But the idea of equity ownership did come again from that early 2000s offer to buy the firm. We figured, look, if we're going to be sustainable, the equity ownership needs to be brought. So we had different equity programs in the beginning. They were very generous and that we wanted a lot of participation. But as the years went by, we started getting more specific. We created a committee. We started tracking people throughout the year, and it's getting better and better and more formal as time goes by with the specific metrics. And then we're communicating more, right? In the beginning, you're a little bit shy about who became an equity owner, who's not. But again, the key is transparency. It's setting expectations, communicating, making sure people understand how the firm is doing, whether or not we're meeting our goals, and all just interconnecting all those metrics ultimately to look, if you're going to be an equity owner, those are the things we need you to focus on, and we need to make sure you're contributing. Anyway, that's a little bit of how we've put it together. We have, I believe it's like 28 equity holders in the firm, and that number keeps expanding. And that's where we are today.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I think that's brilliant. I also think, when you talk to so many advisors in the firm, in the industry who are trying to grow, one of their sore spots obviously is finding advisors, junior advisors, young advisors who want to come on and are a fit culturally for their firm, whatever their firm does and whatever their sweet spots are. I think, HH handles early career recruiting in a fascinating way, and it's a big part of your model. Would you share with us how you've made this work? And, right now, like you're firing on all cylinders. I'm sure it might not have been that way in the beginning, but, you use some fascinating techniques, if you'd share them with us.
No, absolutely. So it starts with our internship program, Tracy. I go back to it. We used to have summer internships, and I think most advisors listening or in your audience will probably go like, yeah, well, and they're horrible. It's really hard to figure out. We changed that. We have our internships need a 1-year commitment, and you can't be more than a sophomore in college. So the idea is that we hire people. Hopefully they stay for a couple of years with us. We get to absorb them. It's our internship has between 5 and 7 interns at a time, and they're doing real work. Again, I can't take all the credit for it. I've had great managers that had fearless conversations with me where they said, if you really want a serious internship program, you have to pay them, and don't pay them the minimum, pay more than a competitive rate so we can attract. So by building a real internship program, giving them real work, having them participate in all our meetings, giving them access to me, I interview or I share the firm's history and the culture with every intern. So we put our best foot forward. And again, the thinking was, it's not about today. It's not about, look, what are they going to work for us? And we're just thinking, pay it forward. If they don't end up working for us, they're gonna spread the good word that Halbert Hargrove was a great employer. But again, it starts there. And what we do is everybody it hasn't always been there. We've hired advisors with experience, but the majority are being groomed from within, which is what you're alluding to. So they start in an admin position, and then they're off, right? We create a roadmap for everybody. And that roadmap it's flexible, but again, we identify early on who wants to be an advisor, who doesn't. We give them the whole roadmap, the amount of time we need them to be in each role, the education that they're going to need, the certifications, and everything else that goes along with it. And then they start, not only do they get access to all of that, but they get a mentor, which is critical. I can't emphasize the mentorship in a firm like ours. If you don't have a mentor, it's really hard for a manager to really pull this off on their own. You need them to have access to somebody they can really confide on, and really have somebody that can give them different feedback than a manager. But that's how we do it. And then we're focusing, again, you're focusing on succession. So you're doing it. It's just part of the machine. It's not an afterthought. I'm delighted to tell you that our G4, so these are people that are now in their early 30s, are actually aggressive. They have growth goals. They're already pushing us, like, give us access to go get business for you. That's not what I hear from the industry. In the industry, I hear the opposite. I'm hearing that the junior advisors just want a service business. They don't want anybody holding them accountable to produce. We can't be happier just by the fact that they're pushing us. We're just asking them to support the other advisors, and they're already challenging us to, well, give me an option to go bring business. How does that look like, and what can I do? And we're doing it, and they're bringing in business.
That's fantastic. So if you're a next gen advisor in the audience today, hoping to build a multi-generational firm, what's one thing you wish you'd known earlier, that could save them some of the mistakes that perhaps you guys have made at HH?
I say what I hear frequently in the industry is that, man, it's so hard to replace myself. If I'm an advisor, how am I going to do this? All I can tell you, it's way easier than you think. Again, it's hard if you're happen to be in the role right now and doing it. I can say that because we've done it now twice, going on a third time. The first time was way painful because in the industry had not done this, but there's benchmarking studies now. There's methodology to do that transition, and the sooner you jump on it, the better it is, and it's easier than you think.
Great, thank you. And here's my last question. If today's discussion sparks interest, how can advisors reach out to Halbert Hargrove to explore opportunities?
Absolutely. Obviously, our website is there. There's several ways to contact us, front and center, careers. There's also, we have a great LinkedIn page. I'm there, and any of our other management team is there. So very, very, very easy to do.
Fantastic. Sounds like there's some opportunities there for some folks in our audience. Thank you so much, JC, for joining Financial Advisor Magazine and Advisor Confidential, the podcast series sponsored by Bailey Gifford. Thank you for sharing so many rich insights into how you built your powerful firm and team. And thank you to our audience. Get in touch with us at Financial Advisor Magazine to obtain more expert wealth management growth advice by visiting fa-mag.com. And don't forget to subscribe and click the follow button to never miss an episode. We look forward to welcoming you back for the next episode of Advisor Confidential.
What is actual investing? We believe that it's our real-world task to deliver thoughtful capital deployment. It's not about speculating over the short term, it's about understanding the long-term opportunities for companies through technological progress or new business models. So we seek out those exploring big, new ideas that will change the world. Then we back them to give those ideas time to flourish. Bailey Gifford, Actual Investors. Find out more at baileygifford.com.
Thank you for listening to Advisor Confidential, the podcast series, where we dive deep into the evolving world of registered investment advisors. From compliance to client experience, digital tools to succession planning, we cover what matters most to RIAs today. Learn more by subscribing to this podcast or visiting fa-mag.com.